本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。What's good, Internet? It is January 2nd, 2017. We made it to 2017. 2016 didn't kill us all. I am Austin Walker, your host. I am coming to you on this recording. We did not do it live today because none of us have energy and because we're technically off today. Joining me, Danielle Riendo.
Hi, hi.
And Danika Harrod.
Hey, hey.
Hey, hey, hi, hi.
Hey, hey, and hi, hi.
The traditional Waypoint greeting. This is... how's it going? We made it through. We did it. We got through holidays. We got through our end of year stuff. I almost canceled this show this morning because it's it's like the first full day off I'll have had in forever. But I thought, you know what? This is going to take like 45 minutes. Let's just knock it out real quick.
Let's just do it for the fans, for the people.
Hashtag for the culture, you know?
That's right.
30 minutes compared to Austin's proposed 30 seconds.
I thought about, like, let me just do a 30-second thing. And I might do this at some point anyway, like the next time that there's a reason to miss an episode. Where, like, so, like, early on in the Beastcast, we hit a point where it was like, okay, what do we do for this holiday episode? And then we ended up doing the Fiasco game, which I think was really fun and good. Oh, yeah. But Jeff Gerstmann, like, didn't sit us down, but, like, very much had this, like, serious, like, listen, this is your one chance to make it clear that you're allowed to miss a week, like, to your audience. Like, this is the one chance that you get to be like, no, we don't have to hit every possible episode. And as, like, a person who believes that rest and relaxation are important and that, like, work shouldn't consume everyone's life, I
You believe
totally
that? Sure?
I do believe that. This is a do as I say, not as I do situation. Right. Or, like, the reason I'm working as hard as I fucking am right now is because I know that that's how I guarantee the resources necessary to give us all easier lives in 3 months. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
that's right. Yeah.
Is that, like, when it's budget approval time, you know, they know I've been working. That's all I'm saying. So, and that might not work out. They might, who knows? I could explode by then from working so much. But I'm off today, and I'm just here to talk about video games with my friends.
Hell yeah!
Talk about video games.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And just life. How were your holiday quote unquote breaks?
Well, my cats almost got locked out of my cat sitter, my dear friend, almost got locked out of my apartment on Christmas Day, and we needed to call the emergency locksmith. I was very worried about my kitties.
Oh, buddy.
But you know what? It was a Christmas miracle, and everything worked out, and they got fed.
How expensive was this Christmas miracle?
It was like $170.
Oh, my God.
Ooh, Merry Christmas to the locksmith.
Yeah, they had a great Christmas. Empire Locksmith.
Shout out.
They're very nice. They were very nice. They were very helpful. Thank you, Empire Locksmith.
God. Well, beyond your cat sitter being locked out of the apartment, how was the rest of your holidays?
Really lovely. I've played a lot of games. I played a lot of The Last Guardian, which has been amazing. I really like it.
What do you think of it?
Despite some issues, for sure, but...
Is that something that would have been in contention if you'd played it a little bit earlier?
I think so.
And,
but
like,
it
who
comes
knows if it would
with...
have made it, but...
Yeah, I mean, it really might have been, because I think it's actually incredibly special. I think it's... it's doing all those things that you want sort of a Team Ico game to do. It's doing the sort of the heartfelt connection with an animal character, which, sort of, I guess Yorda wasn't an animal, but, the sort of heartfelt connection to another mind.
It's not like she also was not like a super well-developed character in her own right, though.
Yeah, so. I remember getting so frustrated, like, guiding her around from time to time.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
I'm looking forward to getting frustrated with Last Guardian also.
Yeah, which I really love. All the stuff with the animal is amazing. The puzzles are really good. The architecture of the levels is really amazing. But everything people are saying about the camera and controls being hot garbage is also true.
That
so
part is
frustrating.
that's the part that I have, like, so there's kind of like 2 bits of frustration inside of The Last Guardian, or there's 3 things for me. There's 3 bits of frustration. One of them is, like, just a matter of context and time, which is, Inside didn't make my top 10 list, but I'd written next to Inside that the piece I was going to, like the little 300-word thing I was going to write about Inside was that Inside is Why Last Guardian didn't make the list for me, because it was tight and short, and each segment was focused. Each screen had an idea, and then you pursued that idea and then moved on. Whereas Last Guardian is this sprawling thing where there are sections where it's I fucking get it. The eyes, you move the eyes, I get it. You have to, my friend, the Last Guardian, Mr. Catbird, the Last Guardian, can't look at the weird eyes, otherwise the Catbird Trico gets all sad, and so you have to get rid of the eyes. I get it. I've done it 30 times. It's not 30, but it's a lot, and it goes. So that was one of the thoughts I had. The other sort of frustration is the camera thing, which there's no defense of for me. It's just there's not. Please figure out cameras. You have to do better than this.
It was 2016.
You had 10 years.
Yeah, you really need.
You had so long.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so bad. It's so frustrating because it's I really love what this is doing otherwise, but
right. So then the third frustration is the one that I will defend, and actually, Paolo Pedercini from Molindustria, which is kind of a very kind of politics focused independent game, studio. Wrote up his top 10 games of the year, or his top favorite games of the year, and his point on The Last Guardian is really fucking good. I'm just going to read this. This is from molindustria.org, MOLLEINDUSTRIA.org. I've been pointing at how animal companionship in video games tends to be informed by a utilitarian and reductionist logic. Pokemon are both weapons and collectibles existing in a fictional world designed to naturalize this instrumental relationship. Neko Atsume is an addicting conditioning device dispensing immaterial cuteness for your time and money. Virtual pets are nothing but lightly just variables banking on our tendency to attribute feelings and thought to artificial entities, the Tamagotchi effect. The Last Guardian is an epic tale of domestication and healing that manages to transcend this instrumental relationship. Gameplay-wise, it's an action-adventure with simple puzzles that can be solved by indirectly manipulating a griffin-like creature named Trico. However, there is no way to see the companion as just a way to reach a platform or as a formal constraint, like the helpless girl in Eco, the game's direct predecessor. Trico's behavior and characterization is vivid and subtle. It develops over time and yet stays unmistakably other. Trico resists direct control, misunderstands you, and then surprises you by autonomously navigating the impossible architecture. It's often a frustrating experience, but frustration is an integral part of the aesthetics of the game. And for me, it's also an integral part of relationships and of obviously relationships with non-human entities, but especially just in general, all relationships are negotiated. All relationships that you have in your life outside of total domination are instances where you give some and you take some, and that is something I've never seen done in the game, which tends to be a lot more binary than that. You eventually learn how to game it, and you sort of learn how to game Trico, but Trico's gonna do what Trico's gonna do. So
yeah,
and I like that a lot. Yeah, so
love
that's the
that
frustration.
about the game.
That frustration I love. It's just it's the same frustration as any pet owner has ever experienced, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like as a pet owner, for forever, I will feel a big connection to this animal.
There's one part that frustration in a good way actually really, really got me the other night.
Ooh.
And of course I'm playing with my puppy on my lap, who is the worst. I love him, but he's the worst. And there's a part where Trico gets his tail caught in a door, and he's in pain, or I'm gendering Trico, I don't know. They're in pain, and they're crying and they're moaning and whining. And I got so flustered at the idea of oh no, my pet is hurt. I can't let this happen. And the camera's going all over the place, and I'm fuck this camera, and I'm getting all flustered and actually doing poorly at the game because I'm so personally hurt by the idea of my little pet my big pet being hurt. And it was actually a really kind of great moment because Trico actually ends up sort of protecting you in that moment too, because there's these sort of soldier things that kind of come in, but it's this great time where it's oh my god, it's making you flustered because of this.
Totally.
Sounds like that Austin Walker that Austin Walker
empathy problem.
Empathy, yeah.
That's true. It's really hard to see Trico get hurt because like you're helpless to help in a direct way. So that's the other thing that's happening there, I guess, right? Is like not only are you helpless to like say, like, Trico, just come this way. Like just please jump up there, do the
thing. Yeah.
You're also helpless to like directly intercede on Trico's behalf when they're attacked, right? Like you have to solve a puzzle to let Trico defend themselves, which is an interesting thing power-wise too, right? Like this is a relationship you have with something that could kill you, like that could instantly just destroy you, and that is a power relationship that exists in the world and is very complex. So
I'm
Danika,
excited to play.
Yeah. Did you play anything else over the break?
I put in about 30 hours into Terraria.
Latest release. Hot release.
No, I played a ton of Firewatch also, but
exclusive.
And I played a bunch of the new Shantae Half Genie Hero,
nice.
which is like super awesome. But
did you hold on? Wait, did you beat Terraria yet?
Yeah. I beat the Moon Boss. Like I think my girlfriend and I have beat the Moon Boss like 5 times, but we've been playing this game for like I had never played Terraria until this year. Same with Minecraft, because I just was like, yeah, it was just like never my thing to like sit down at my computer and like get heavy into like building games. That was just like never my thing, and Terraria has been like amazing, and I keep beating the Moon Boss, and I'm just so strong.
You're deep into it.
I'm so strong, yeah, and my girlfriend and I's names in there. My name is Carl and her name is Marks.
Oh God!
Wow.
Fighting the system as we go.
Yeah. You have to. You know what? We have to get together this year and beat the Moon Boss. You know, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's time to organize against the Moon Boss and let that dude know what's what.
Correct.
We gotta stick our hand to the man, and that man is the Moon Boss.
So wait, how is Shantae? So Shantae is a like really pretty platformer where you play
by Way Forward
lady. You're a genie.
Yeah. No, she's a half genie. So it's like I don't know if you've ever seen Inuyasha, anime
What's
about
that? Tell me.
demon.
Wait, sorry. Tell me everything you know about Inuyasha.
I know a lot. But Shantae is
it's
just
not
like
a joke, damn it. Tell the people what Inuyasha is.
Inuyasha is a story about a girl named Kagome who falls down a well and goes back in time to feudal Japan, where she finds a boy stuck to a tree by a bunch of arrows, and she pulls the arrows out, and it's this half demon Inuyasha, and it just follows their journey together, just journeys their follow. You know, it's
early. None of us have had coffee. It's a lot.
I'm chugging iced coffee. I'll be working the rest of the day, so I'm just getting all this out now.
Good.
So yeah, I played Shantae, and that's really fun. I love platformers, so those are always fun. I'm having a really hard time in this one level right now where I just like, it's when you die, like, obviously I sound like a drama queen. When you die, you start the whole level over, and damn it, it hurts. It hurts me because you have to like use her special powers to like climb up places, and there's multiple ways you can go, and it's just like I'm in a really frustrating level, but it's really fun. So
I think what's always attracted me to that series has been Way Forward's like artistic flair. Like they've always been able to give on whatever platform, going back to when this was like a GBA game, I want to say, like a lot of character through animation and stuff. But now it looks like even screenshots now look kind of really striking in a way that previously it only looked great in motion. So I'm curious about it.
It's looking real good. It's looking much better. And the music is awesome too. There's like a lot of random vocal tracks, and
vocal tracks aren't used enough in games.
They're not. They're not
a thing. Because when they are, like, we always just like immediately give them value on novelty alone, like in
and you remember them forever.
Right,
like
totally.
who's not singing Snake Eater at least once a week?
Absolutely, all the time. Actually, whenever I climb a ladder, I sing Snake Eater.
Yep. Whenever I eat a tree frog, I'm singing Snake Eater.
It's like we're like the shopkeeper song, Crypt of the Necro Dancer. Like anytime anybody uses a vocal track, like especially original vocals. It is like immediately a meme, a gaming meme, and you know, I'm just saying people should use those more because they're cool.
I mean, I'm into it. I'm trying to saying still alive, but like officially.
But officially, you're going to be the next GLaDOS.
Yes.
Great. I finally, after putting it on my top 10 list, I finally played Hitman yesterday and the day before. It's like...
Yeah, you've been playing it. I've been seeing it pop up on my Steam.
It's true. I really like Hitman. It turns out that Hitman, the game I put in my number 10 favorite game of the year spot, because I watched it a fucking ton, it's really good. And like that was actually a surprise to me in some way, that like I learned the joy of hitting people in the face with blunt objects in Hitman from watching people do it for hundreds of hours or whatever.
Yeah.
Not hundreds, but like for dozens of hours. And you think you've learned it from that, and then you hit a man in the face with a fire extinguisher.
In real life.
Well, in my real Hitman, I do it for real. I do it hands-on. And it's like, whoa, that felt really good. And it's like, there's a disconnect between the joy you see in someone else hitting someone in the face with a fire extinguisher or a hammer and the joy of you doing it. And then like the other thing is just like, you go from being the observer who is excited by what nonsense. So I was playing with a friend who was watching me play. And so that also meant I was encouraged to be the person who played it up for just like, check out this plan I got. And like, all right, what's your fucking stupid ass plan, Austin? And like, all right, I'm going to throw a coin into this bathroom with the door open, and I'm going to hide in this cabinet that's in this bathroom. And then one dude, the guy who has the disguise I need, is going to come in here, and I'm going to hit him over the head with this fire extinguisher, and I'm going to get his costume. And that is not what happened. What happened was 3 people came in that room, and all of them got hit over the head with a fire extinguisher very loudly.
My gosh.
And more people saw, and I managed to get out alive, but like, it was like those sorts of like rolling comedy capers is just like the fucking best. Like that's my favorite thing about Hitman is that it's a very funny game, and that is not what you would think about a game that is called Hitman 2016. So
I haven't talked to one person who's played it who hasn't liked it.
It's super good. I also just generally like the structure of it a lot. This is all like old hat for people who listen to a bunch of gaming podcasts and who have, whether you're coming to us via Giant Bomb or Idle Thumbs, you've heard some deep Hitman talk. You know about that Hitman. But I do just want to shout out the escalation missions really quick, because those are things that didn't get a ton of coverage on other sites. And the way escalation missions work, like you might already know what this is already, but you might not know how deep these go or how weird they can get. So an escalation mission is a thing where it's like, okay, you revisit one of the story maps and you're given a different target, and then you have to do that. You have to complete that target with the way that they tell you to do it. And then you have to start over from the beginning and do it again with an added step afterwards. So for instance, on the very first escalation mission is you sneaking onto this like mock ship that was like the training zone. And you go in and you have to just like kill a guard with a kitchen knife while dressed as another guard. And then that steps up until it's like, okay, you have to kill that guy with a kitchen knife while you are dressed as a guard. You also have to kill another dude, like a named character from the main story mission there, while dressed as a yacht official, like not a yacht official, a yacht
an officer,
a crewman. It was like one of the crewmen. And you can do that with whatever weapon you want. If you're spotted by the cameras, you have 2 minutes to delete the footage. All of the crew members can see through all of your disguises. Like it adds nothing like that. Oh my
gosh.
And like
so
bit by bit, it gets really good. And then the thing that is really great about it is like you really learn these levels inside and out from this. But then some of the later ones end up being just like completely different things. Like the first one that I did on the Paris map was like, the first step was like, all right, get in this room and steal the thing that's in this safe. And like, yeah, like I'm a hitman. Like, yeah, but go steal the thing that's in the safe. Yeah, but like I'm supposed to kill people. Like, no, just go in there and, spoilers, I definitely still killed some people trying to get what was in that safe. Double spoilers, it was vodka.
Wow.
But then like it ends up being like, oh, well, the next step is you have to kill this dude while this dude who happens to be near there while dressed as an auction like attendant who he's part of this big auction. It's like it's a really cool way of slowly introducing you to not only like the cool mechanics of like not being seen and using disguise as well, but just like here's what the levels are. Like you're gonna get super intimate with these levels, and that is not a thing that you do in most games. Like most games, you go through a level and then you are done and you move the fuck on. And I like that there was a game this year that was just like, no, like here's 6 levels, learn them.
There was a part in the Ed Smith wrote a piece for us on sort of violence in games in 2016, and he sort of had an anecdote about one of the kills in Hitman is you have to impersonate somebody's psychiatrist. And
yeah, so I did that one.
Okay, cool. It just sounded kind of amazing. Like, oh, you have to listen to his issues before you can kill him.
So
kind of
it
thing.
actually ended up. So again, I've watched probably 60 hours of Hitman. Like in terms of like TV shows I've watched this year, like coming home and like hopping on Skype with a friend and like watching Hitman has been a thing. Or like dozing off while watching Hitman is a thing in my life, which is strange. And despite that, and despite the fact that I've seen so much of this game, there is still every once in a while something that's deeply surprising, because so many people go through things in a similar fashion of just like, oh, okay, I'm at the Paris show, that means I'm gonna dress up like Helmut Kruger, who is this like supermodel who looks sort of like Mr. Hitman. And so if you take his costume, you can kind of go anywhere because he's a supermodel, and supermodels go wherever they want. Like as a rule.
Deep commentary there.
It's
very
true.
good. Yeah.
And in the Sapienza map, which is the like Italian, like Southern European seaside city, it's beautiful. It's my favorite thing in the world. You always see people kind of go into the main like villa where where a lot of stuff happens in a very similar way. I'm losing my voice. It's bad.
It's been a week. Yeah.
It's been a week. I took up smoking. I didn't take up smoking, but it sounds like I did. There's this whole other plot line where like normally the way you get in is like, oh, I am going to impersonate a flower delivery guy or a chef, or I'll just hop over the fence because of the way the level is laid out. But I found a whole other route that was about becoming this guy's psychiatrist. And this dude, I'm going to spoil this one little thing in Hitman because it's really hard to miss. Or it's really easy to miss, rather. This guy you're going to assassinate has been like distraught for a while. He's like a criminal who is like hiding underneath his mansion a bioterror lab where they're developing an evil. They're developing a virus that can be used like a sniper bullet, where like it's designed to kill one person and you just deploy it anywhere in the world, and eventually it gets to them. Because like it's just gonna spread until it hits them.
It's the red button.
It's the red button.
It really
yes, that's
is.
exactly it. And so you have to go kill him and somebody else and blah blah blah. And to kill him normally, you just kind of like there's a bunch of different ways to do it. But the ways that you tend to do it is like, oh, I'm gonna utilize the fact that his mom died recently and he's sad about it to like lead him away from other people, or like to play his old home movies and like distract him that way, or kill him with an exploding golf ball. There's a bunch of ways you could do it. But the way I did it was I dressed up like his new psychiatrist who he hadn't met yet, and like had a session with him. And in that session, he reveals that he is the one who killed his mother. And like, whoa, like I've watched that guy a dozen times get killed and have always known that he's been sad about his dead mom, but never knew that like he is the one who killed her by smothering her with a pillow. And then I killed him by smothering him with a pillow. So,
wow, you got him back. Karma's a bitch.
It is. Shout outs to Ma. Like I'm pointing up to you. Like Italian mom, you're the one. I'm doing this for you.
Oh,
Hitman's
man.
good. So I'm pretty happy that I've actually gone back and checked that out. I played a little more like Dragon Quest Builders, and I enjoyed that. And I played Doom. Patrick isn't here, but when he's back, we can talk about Doom.
Wow, you played Doom.
I did play Doom, but
Doing your homework, Professor.
I'll transition into our second topic. I didn't put Doom on my top 10 list, and I'm curious. for both of you, like, so Danika, you didn't do a top 10 list for us because of how busy you are. But I'm curious from you, Danika, what games would have been on your top 10 list or on your top list? And then Danielle, like, what barely missed that top 10 list for you?
Oh, yeah. I've got a bunch, but Danika, you should go first because this is your opportunity to tell the world what you would have picked.
I feel like I wasn't prepared for like top 10, but like my favorite games of the year are probably Overwatch,
Sure.
Kirby Robobot.
Oh.
What was up? Tell us about Kirby Robobot, because that's one I like heard people talk about and never got around to checking out.
So for starters, I had never played a Kirby game until last year, and since then I've played a bunch, and Triple Deluxe is like one of my favorites, which was the 3DS.
I heard that was really good.
It's a good game.
Yeah, it's extremely good. So Robobot is pretty much the same as Kirby Triple Deluxe, but you get like this huge mech suit and you're just like a giant robot, which is a dream for me. And you can like punch cars and make cars explode by punching them, and it's just very heartwarming. I love Kirby games. Like,
you can punch cars to make them explode. It's very heartwarming.
It's heartwarming because you're watching like Waddle Dee driving a car, and like Waddle Dee is like really cute, but he can hurt you if you run into him, and Kirby is like this cute little pink thing in a giant robot suit, and watching Kirby punch Waddle Dee in a bus and making that bus explode makes my heart, do loop-de-loop.
At cars, is it Waddle Dee or Vegeta?
Oh, God.
Oh, man.
This is a hard question.
I feel like I just have to give that to Vegeta.
Word. Yeah, Vegeta. Vegeta has that nice pink shirt. So
yeah.
I'm gonna give it to him.
Some other favorites are probably Hyper Light Drifter.
Oh yeah.
Thumper, which I didn't play a lot. I played a bunch of it. I'm not very good at it. Little better than our pal Chief Keef, but
listen, he had to play it in VR. If you could play it in not VR.
Oh, if I played it in VR, I might throw up.
Right.
I mean, he had to play it on the phone too, so you gotta.
He was taking calls.
He's a professional.
He did good.
Digitalpyramids.com.
That's right.
We need to get him to play GTA, and then I'm sure he'll kick everyone's ass.
That's actually true.
I didn't play too much Thumper, but when my girlfriend was here last, I watched her play like, oh my God, like almost the entire game. It was so intense, and like anytime I would be like, let me try, I would just die immediately. And Firewatch is definitely another favorite. I'm not that far in Firewatch. I'm like right when you head to Wapiti Station, but like the game, I'm a wimp, and the game is making me so stressed out. Yeah. Like I feel like if I wasn't playing it on stream with like support from the chat and stuff, just like telling me like I'm doing a good job, I would just be stressed out and freaked out.
It's like one of the most stressful games, and like one of the things that's like wild about it is that the lineage it kind of comes from is a series of games. It's also kind of stressful, but that in retrospect feels like nothing can happen to you. So when I think about like Gone Home or Dear Esther, or like, okay, like I'm going to explore this space and that is going to be it. But despite knowing that that's where that game comes from, in a sense, like not directly or anything, but like the games it hangs with are games in which I can't be touched. Firewatch feels like I'm constantly super vulnerable. It didn't make my top 10 list, but like if it did, that would be the thing I said about it. It was like, I love how vulnerable I felt. But also, like, does the world really need another dude saying that Firewatch made him feel vulnerable about like both physically and emotionally? Like, hey, that's that game. That game is about masculine vulnerability, but like, or not about, but that's one read on it. So.
I think as someone who's watched like a ton of Forensic Files, I just like there were parts in that game where I was just like so freaked out just by like the quietness of the atmosphere and like things seeming stranger than they probably were, or whatever else. It just it scared me.
What got me about Firewatch the most was the kind of like really, really sad point that love isn't enough. Like relationships are really, really hard, and even when you put the work in, even when you love someone more than anything. Like, I just loved how actually adult that was.
Yeah.
As a sort
definitely.
of main story point.
It's like devastating, and it's like it's
Yes.
one of the most devastating lessons I've learned as an adult.
Yeah.
Is that like, and I mean that from romantic love to platonic love. Like I mean
Yes.
the entire spectrum of love to love about a thing and not even a person. Like it is not enough that you are affectionate or that you hold someone in incredible esteem or that you would die for somebody. Like it turns out that like.
Not
The
enough sometimes.
practicalities of life can get in the way and can not, make that a smooth thing. So
Yeah.
it's cool that that's one of the games that came out this year,
Yeah, it's very good.
Love is not enough. Okay.
Yay, that was a
Thanks.
good point for 2016, don't you think, everybody?
Uh-huh.
Yep.
I feel like if I would have played Last Guardian or Final Fantasy, those would have been on my top as well. But I just
Yeah.
didn't get around to them, and then I got to the point where I was like, I don't know which one to get. I don't want to get both at the same time because I'll have anxiety about both sitting there and
Yep.
not knowing which to play. And yeah.
I almost did a list that was just also... So I did a guest list over at Giant Bomb that was like my top 10 favorite games to watch this year. But that list was almost a different list, which was top like 5 bits of a game that were not the whole game. And for that one, I would have like definitely ended up including like a couple of different things where like I don't want to play all of this, but this one segment or this one DLC or this extra little thing is like enough to knock it into that spot. And a game you just said that I've since forgotten would have been on that list. What were the 2 games you just said?
We all know it's Final Fantasy.
Right, it's Final Fantasy. Thank you.
We all know.
So, the thing with Final Fantasy, the reason Final Fantasy didn't make my list was like I'm just at the point now where I'm about to get to where people say it goes bad, and I couldn't like in good conscience be like, oh yeah, I like this game enough to put it on my list, knowing that the other foot was about to drop, and like I might still have ended up including it there, but that was enough for me to discourage me from doing that. The other stuff that would have made it onto that like here are bits of games that I thought were incredible this year, or like here's DLC or something, is like the Division Survival DLC that we streamed a couple of weeks ago is like so much better than the Division base game. I think the Division base game is like it's pretty good. I have my issues with it, but the mechanics are all pretty stock standard and like rewarding by the end of the game especially. But that survival DLC is so good. And if you haven't seen that, you should go to twitch.tv/waypoint, and we have an archive there. We're looking into archiving it onto our YouTube and to our like Vice video player soon. But then there's also The Witness, which I like. Danielle put it on my like I can't deal with this list, in which I completely completed The Witness minus the environmental puzzles. I did every puzzle except for all of the hidden like you find the lines that are in the world. So I enjoyed it enough to do that. But I had lots of issues with its self-seriousness and with its notions of the philosophical, especially speaking of things that will not save us, its notion that rationality and pure reason will save us. That is the thing that is going to let us stand up. Like we almost instantly moved into a world in which that was exhibited to be false, right? Like pointing out falsehoods does not win you the day anymore. Maybe making the world such that truth matters again might, but like that's a whole other fight that you don't win by just pointing at the facts and figures. But the 2 things at the end of The Witness that I adore and would have made this other list, or if I could have found space for it on my top 10, would have made just this one segment there, is you eventually open into a post-game area where you find some tape recordings that are deeply human and very like delivered really well and are real and are not just lectures and are not just like famous quotes from dead people.
I think that's so awesome. on a like fundamental gut level, it made me so angry that was reserved for the post game. Like, only the special people can see the truth, kind of thing.
The veil comes down, the armor comes down, and you can see that you bleed too. It's a fantastic moment, and like I think that's worth credit, but it is also so completely hidden. And then there's another hidden thing at the end, which is the challenge, the true final puzzle of the witness, which probably took me 5 hours to complete because it is not a set puzzle. Unlike the rest of the puzzles in the game, there is no single solution for it. It is filled with it is a kind of a randomly generated or procedurally generated, not randomly generated, puzzle in which you have to bring to bear all of your knowledge about all of the different types of puzzles throughout the game, to do them quickly, to evaluate which puzzles to solve in which order based on like what would be easiest for you, and then to like also quickly learn a new mechanic, because one of the puzzle types in that final thing is a type of puzzle that you've never really encountered before.
Oh,
like
interesting.
it's do you know those extra tablets that you find sometimes in the world that are just like, oh, it's 2 triangles, and that's it. So that is a different puzzle type that is in the final challenge in a big weird way that involves like literally the world shifts around you as you solve it, like opening and closing off pathways. And so it's really cool because, you know, while those puzzles each have a proper solution, the fact that you're like, okay, it's time for me to actually use all this information I learned for different challenges over and over again is, to me, more like what real problem solving is like, which is like, you don't have all day to sit in front of a screen and solve a single problem one at a time. Like, we move through life quickly, and if you don't stop, you know, and so you don't get the chance to stop. You actually have to like solve things and keep moving. And sometimes problems don't have clear solutions, and you have to like, fuck it, go back to the drawing board, like, or I'm gonna go focus on this problem instead. And so like that metaphor for life and for intelligence, or whatever the metaphor was trying to do, was way more effective for me. So if I could put just that little element on a list, I would.
Yeah, totally.
What about you, Danielle? What games like almost made the list but didn't for you?
I have a whole list, and then there are still, of course, things I haven't played yet, like Virginia,
totally.
Watch Dogs 2.
Yes.
Those are on the.
Yep. Those are on my cut from the. I have a 11 through 20, right, which is so easy. That's also Inside and Super Hot and Watch Dogs 2 and Overwatch, and I'm just going to say Duskers, Tokyo Mirage Sessions. Like, I loved so many games this year and did not get a chance to talk about them, but it's those. They're good.
So much love, so little time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I have like an 11 through 20, which includes things that I only dipped a toe into.
Sure.
And I know I love them, but I just literally like 30 minutes or less played them, which is Blood and Wine for Witcher 3 and Hyper Light Drifter, which I thought was beautiful and amazing, and I watched a bunch of it and I played a little of it, but like,
it's hard to make that.
It's hard to be like, this was my number 7 game, when it's like I played 15 minutes. You know,
the
it's
other
just
thing
hard
is like
to.
it's easy to find reasons to excise something from a list like this, which is like, all right, how do I narrow this thing down to 10? Okay, well, I guess I didn't really play enough of that for it to count, so I'm gonna. Yeah, bye. And that's a useful thing to do for sure. But
even though it's like painful, because it's one of those things where it's like, I know if I got through this game and beat it, it would probably be a definite top 10, you know. So it's like, oh god damn it, you know. But I'll just go through real quick. Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor is on there.
Yeah, I finally played that. I played that this week. I played that on the bus ride back from and then went back to it like later to finish it. I love that game. That game is like legitimately really cool. Can you talk a bit about what it is, because we wrote about it a couple of months ago, but like I don't know that everybody knows what it is. Yeah,
totally. I mean, it's basically a little it's almost like Cart Life in a little weird alien city kind of thing. You're this little android janitor who has like kind of a really crappy life, and you know, the whole thing is a commentary on sort of what it is to be kind of repressed, or you know, living in a big city where life is sort of passing you by and you're just sort of scraping through. So you're a janitor and you have to clean up people's garbage, and you never really make enough money, and there's all these sort of vendors and sellers who have all these nice things that you can never afford. And a really weird and interesting thing that I thought was cool. Actually, in my previous job, I actually did an interview with the developers about this, but there's sort of a pretty serious commentary on being trans in the game, because every now and then the world starts going all weird and bizarre if you don't shift your gender, and you need money for that too.
Your perspective gets all blurry, and it's hard to read anything, and it's just miserable. And you do. You need money to do that.
Yeah. Which I thought was rad and pretty thoughtfully implemented. Like, it was like a pretty cool thing. Like, they don't really advertise that that's in the game. It's not really like what you go into thinking like, oh, this is definitely a trans narrative, and then it's just a thing that happens in the world. It's just a fact of life.
And one of the things that's really cool is that, like, when you this is the thing that, like, I guess your character just does this every few days. They need to gender shift.
Yeah.
There's not like a ton of lore about, is this part of their alien species or their android programming, or no, this is the thing. This is a reality of their life, which I like. And then two, like, it's actually really joyous when you get to do it. Like, it's like you are now, your gender is now blank, and you feel amazing. And also, their genders are not limited to our boring human genders. Their genders include things like prismatic glyphs and Susan Sarandon.
Ooh,
and
Susan Sarandon. Oh my god!
I was Susan Sarandon for a while. It was pretty good. But like, so that to me is like the thing that really stood out about Diaries of a Spaceport Janitor, which is like, you are broke and miserable, and like nothing. You can't ever afford anything. You could barely afford to eat. You have to learn how to game the system to like really make ends meet. And also, it's really pretty and fun. And
I want to play it now. You guys are making me want to get it right now.
The city is like filled with so much life. On festival days, people are playing music everywhere, and like you meet a couple of people who are like totally chill, where they're just like, man, hey, like, how you doing? Like, make sure you avoid the cops today. Like, yeah, I got you. Don't worry, I will. And like, there's just enough of that blend of complete oppressive, like, city life barely scraping by with like, of course I live in the city. Like, of course I'm going to move to where all of my friends are. And that is that like combination, that juxtaposition is really powerful.
Yeah, it's so good.
And it's just like, the aesthetic is just on point. So,
damn, I'm playing that today.
You should.
So,
you totally should.
I'm gonna get it.
All right, so Diary of a Spaceport Janitor. What else?
Goner's on there, which we played a whole bunch of.
Oh shit, I forgot.
About Goner.
I know. It feels like
I bought that the moment. Like the moment I got home, the day we played it on stream, and I put like 20 hours into it. I played it so much. It's so good. I forgot about that. That's probably one of my top 10. I'm a simple gal.
No, it's great. It's a good game.
You like shooting and
I like shooting. I'm bad at it.
You get your corn pellets. You know, your corn.
I love the corn. I know everything Danielle said like was so in the game. I just continued with it. I'm like, that's corn.
There it is. I got Super Hot and Inside on there. We already chatted about those a little bit. There's a couple of like weirder little ones that I also really like. Burly Men at Sea. I thought was like a really cool little sort of storybook game. And there's a game called The Final Station that didn't get a lot of hype this year, but I really liked it. It was
I thought that game was going to be a different thing than it was.
Yeah,
so go ahead, describe it.
Me too. It's almost like a really very story-based sort of pixel art. I guess it's kind of a zombie narrative, but it's a little more thoughtful than sort of what you generally think of with that. It was like a very somber and serious little kind of short story. Like there was also some shooting mechanics and survival stuff going on, but you were this little train conductor in this sort of apocalyptic world, and you had to try to get people across basically to the next station, to the final station, that sort of thing, which I just really dug it. You know, it wasn't the sort of thing that blew my mind or anything, but I just sort of appreciated that it was this sort of somber, serious little take on this.
I wish there either hadn't been combat or
true.
So like the combat is like side-scrolling, and you have guns and crowbars, and like you swing to hit people or you shoot to shoot. I think there's crowbar. There might not be a crowbar, but there's a melee attack of some sort, and then a gun. And it is also like you watch that trailer, and because of the world we live in of games, I imagined that like it was going to be an FTL. I thought it was going to be a roguelike. Right? I thought it was going to be like, oh, you get on your train and you run people for, like on these missions, and then maybe if you get out, it's like into big procedurally generated cities or something. But it's actually like really firmly designed. Like, and that's not a bad thing. Like the handcrafted, like, oh, okay, this is an encounter that has been hand designed by somebody, but I ended up getting into encounters that were just like not super fun.
Yeah.
Like the gunplay stuff. Of just like, this is a slog, and I know I have to get through this.
Yeah.
Like I can't just re-roll, and that eventually pushed me off of it. But I think that like you, like it's really somber and smart and like you thought, not like you, Danielle.
Like you, somber,
but smart. Yeah, so that's a good one. That's a good one to call out that I think definitely went under the radar a little bit.
Yeah, I've got 2 quick other ones. See, I told you I have an 11 to 22, but
let's hear it.
There was a game called Zombie Night Terror that I also think went completely under the radar, and it was the absolute opposite. It was a 50s sci-fi, kishy kind of almost Lemmings style game. Where it was actually really fun. It was styled after this sort of, goofy sci-fi stuff. And what you had to do was infect certain people in a world, in a 2D pixel art kind of world. And there were all this sort of procedural things going on with it. And the goal was always to infect everybody in the scene. And so you would only have like 2 vials of zombie serum or whatever, and you'd have to put it in, you would learn the behaviors of different kinds of people. And it was really fun. It was like this really fun little kind of weird simmy thing that I don't know how many people played it, but it was very, very fun. It
looks really cool.
Yeah, it was extremely fun. I enjoyed it. And the last one, really just an honorable mention for making me laugh so much and just being wacky and fun and goofy, and that was Cluster Truck.
Sure.
We streamed that too, so we don't need to go on and on about it. But
Cluster
just a
Truck
really
was one
fun, yeah.
Almost made my top 10 to watch.
Nice,
list.
yeah.
But because it's just a joy to watch people fling themselves onto a row of.
It's really
trucks.
funny.
So
yeah,
it's a good one. It's a good list. That's shout outs to all the games that didn't make the top 10 this year.
Shout outs to games.
Shout outs to games. That's good. I hope 2017. Like I think looking back at this point at 2016, it feels like there's lots of, and this is not like a slam, but like for me there were like lots of B+ games. It was like, this is a good ass game.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of good ass games. Like nothing really broke through and was like just like claimed me this year. It was like, I'm that games. That game owns me. That's not my game. That game
because you haven't played even the ocean
and,
yet. That's
right. That's probably
yeah.
That's probably
it.
The year that like a game like that like wins me over that much will be the best game that's ever come out because I know what my own tastes are and predilections of just like gameplay loops. So like if that ever happens, like whatever that game is, it has to be the best thing ever. But we'll see. I'm curious what 2017 is going to be like. Like it could totally be another. It could totally be a thing of like, there's a million like great games, but there's no like single thing that woos me over again. Or it could be a year where maybe there's only a handful. Really, like, who knows? I'm curious.
Yeah.
But what would you prefer? Having like a lot of games that you really enjoyed, but well,
like nothing that like this is like 2017 is going to be a standout, or 2016 is going to be a standout year when we look back on it because of all these great games. Yeah. But I don't know for me. Like I think really one of the things is like if Doom had won me over the way it won so many other people over, maybe. But like maybe it would have. Yeah, nothing on my list. I played like 5 hours of Doom. Like I get
you got enough Doom to judge.
True. But you've also had it like hammered into your brain that you had to play it.
I think it's very cool, and I think it would never have landed on me the way it landed on other people, just because like I don't have I played those games growing up and enjoyed them a lot, and I played Quake, and I played but it.
Damn,
I think I think part of it is the surprise. Like, part of it really was playing it that first week when it was like, everybody thought like, whatever, I'm going to play this thing. And then being like pleasantly surprised by it as opposed to being overhyped on it and then being like, okay, yeah, I get it. This is good. But like, it's not quite the same experience, maybe.
I was going to say if an 80 gig game isn't winning me over, I'm pissed.
Yeah. That's
the game is huge.
Cool. I think if I was playing, if Doom was a game I went out and spent $60 on to fill my time after work, I would be completely happy with it. But it was a game I spent $60 on to evaluate it in a critical way a week before the end of the year. I guess I owned it before that. But do you know what I mean? Like, there's a distinction between like a game I play for pastime and in which I think it's I would be very happy with it. I would have gladly continued to play it. And a game where it was like, I have all this other stuff I'm supposed to get to. I'm not super, and like that's a shame because
it's more of it was more of an obligation for you to play. Right?
There's other stuff that I was obligated to play that I think I would have like the new Call of Duty I never got around to this year. And I feel bad about that because I hear it's super good, and like I like space a bunch and would probably like that game a whole lot. So I feel like it was just obligation. It was interest. Like I think the speed of Doom is really appealing, and I think that the like I can look at all of those decisions that they made as designers and be like, that's a good ass decision, but it just didn't hit me the way it hit. I'm glad I'm getting all this out there before Patrick comes back. So yeah, it's one of those things of just like, maybe if that had hit me, like the way people talk about that game, or even maybe if I had played a lot of Hitman this year or something, that would have been the thing that makes me think like, 2016, best year of games ever. But like when I think about it compared to like the years that people hold up as like the best video game years of the past, I'm curious what we'll think about it. And I don't know which I would rather have. To get back to your actual question that I swerved off of, I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, what about you, Danika?
I feel like having one game. So this is an example that I feel like I was the only person, one of the only people who felt like this in 2013. But Ni no Kuni was like the game that year that like I felt changed my year.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And I feel like having that experience, and like if The Last Guardian could give me that experience, that would be freaking awesome. But I feel like having that experience is like more valuable to me personally than than playing like 20 games and being like, okay, that was fun.
Right.
I agree.
Maybe I won't play those again. Who knows?
I think like politically, I want there to be the thing where it's like there's 1,000 really cool games, and all of them touch me a little bit, because like that suggests a more vibrant and kind of, what's the word? I keep saying the word survivable, which is the word sustainable. Kind of development industry, right? Where it's like, oh wow, like a bunch of people were able to make games and make rent this year and are doing cool things, and that's going to help the medium continue to grow and prosper because people are going to do exciting new stuff. And like, so like, I think politically that's what I want. But when I think about the games that have touched me the most, it's their years like the one you just described, Danika, of just like, oh wow, Mass Effect just like devoured my life that year. Like I just gave over that year to Mass Effect.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive.
No, they're not. But you pose them as mutually. You asked me which one of the two I would like. You're right. They don't have to be.
I would like both, but I think having that experience that like changes my year is more important to me, like on a personal level.
Yeah. Right. Totally. Than just like there always being a new stream of decent games. What about you, Danielle?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I love, the way we all play games as, people who cover games has to be like that. It has to be the buffet. It can never be the one meal. Maybe we get a game that's like that. Like last year, Witcher 3, I put more than 100 hours into it. I actually really, it was up till 5 a lot playing that game for sure, and loved that. But you can't do that with more than like 1 or 2 games, and it has to be something that's that amazing to you. So in terms of, I agree with that. I want there to be sustainable stuff. I want people to make a million weird and cool things. And when I start getting bored with games, when I start getting a little jaded, that's when I go to something like Itch.io and I play tiny stuff, tiny weird stuff, and I get excited again about people making weird stuff. But I agree. I want to fall in love. Like I want to, throw everything to the wind and fall in love with something and be obsessed with it. Like that's a feeling that I think I think that's why a lot of us play games. We're chasing that dragon a little bit sometimes, and occasionally the dragon gives back. So
occasionally the dragon gives back.
It's like that. It's like that with
quotes. This episode, you punch cards.
Yeah, that's
it's very
the title.
Heartwarming.
Yeah,
occasionally the dragon gives back.
Occasionally the dragon gives back. With that, I'm gonna ask something else to give me something back, which is the question bucket.
Ooh,
I need you to
give us something.
So I'm actually gonna start at the top. It's Monday. I skim from the top.
Yep.
Friday we go deep.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna start with the first question that came in 2017. Here, which comes in from DW in Seattle, who says, "The end of the year has come and gone, and with it various Game of the Year discussions. As an enthusiast, I love to read people's Game of the Year lists, but as a game player, I often struggle to round out the year with a list of 10 favorite games that were actually released in the year. I find, as someone who is not part of the gaming press, that I rarely will buy, play, or experience a game in the year that it is released, let alone in the month, week, or day. With sales from vendors like Itch.io and Steam, I usually find a lot of older games that are fantastic, but never get covered at any of the outlets. Some examples being Valdis Story, Defender's Quest, Fairy Bloom Frisia. Yep, Fairy Bloom, Big Frida.
You've seen Dragon Ball.
There. Okay. I went different. I went New Orleans. Like, yeah.
That was good.
Way of the Samurai 4, which Austin should totally play. I've played Way of the Samurai 4. I'm a big Way of the Samurai fan. Obviously, hundreds of games come out every year, and it's impossible for any site to cover more than a handful at a time, but it leads me to wonder how much value is there in covering a game that may have slipped through the cracks? Would press sites benefit from having a dedicated person to look for wonderful games that may not have gotten much attention? Much luck in the new year, DW from Seattle. So I think for there's like a bunch of different questions here tied up into what seems like one question, which range from like, hey, don't small games need more attention, to like, hey, what is the publishing practices of massive media corporations? What are your, and that's tough. I think we do this in one way or two, in a couple of ways, which is like, well, we get a really good pitch about a game that we'd missed, I'll totally consider it. We get a lot of pitches, so you can't publish everything you pitch. Like, that would be incredible, but which is not a thing you can do. Yeah. And sometimes you have to make that decision of like, well, what's the news peg here? What's the, there's a thing in journalism called a nut graph, which is like the paragraph in that's the paragraph in which you kind of say like, hey, here's why you should care about this. Here's what the news relevancy is here. Like, here's why you should give a fuck. And I don't believe that every piece needs a nut graph. I don't believe that every piece should need a news peg. But for bigger, longer things, which is what people pitch us, it's hard to justify putting budget, resources, and time, into something like that. Like to put it into a slot where our audience is just literally not going to engage with it. Every now and then something can get through. We obviously have our free play feature, which is about games that you can play for free on the internet, and those don't have to be pegged to anything ever. And again, like if someone gives me like a really fucking good pitch for something like that can do it, but also the way that those pitches look good normally is like, it's because there's a really smart peg. There's something really smart to tie that story into. Like, hey, the Yakuza games are coming out. I want to talk about Shenmue 2. Right? Like, that's the sort of thing that's like, oh, well, right, yeah, Shenmue 2 is super not relevant right this second. But because of Yakuza 0, because of the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter, because of this or that, there's going to be an audience that's interested in what you're saying about Shenmue 2 right now. So that's the like sad realistic answer, I guess.
But there's also the part of this where if somebody's really passionate about something, that passion will show through, and that will show in the writing. So, if somebody's really excited about something, there's something that really speaks to them or whatever. It's like, it doesn't matter how small it is. Like, that's going to show, and somebody's going to also feel that way, even if it's a small amount of people. So also,
I've gotten 100 pitches about Earthbound in the last year. Like, I'm not like, and like, which is to say, like, passion is incredible. Also, check to see if the thing you're pitching has been written before.
Yes.
Like, it is really hard to be like, one of the things I think is very true about criticism and about being in the press, in the enthusiast press, is that we have a duty to show the small things that don't get covered. Like, I absolutely believe that, which is why I do, like, one of the things that I will pay attention to is like, oh wow, no one's written about this cool little thing. But I also do think that there is the difficulty of like, how do you translate passion into like good writing?
Yes.
Which is actually going to tie into literally the next question from Evan Noggle, who writes, this summer I started playing Brigador, that isometric mech game that Austin played for and unfinished on Giant Bomb a while back. For a whole number of reasons, that game clicked with me hard and it's quickly becoming one of my favorite games. Unfortunately, that game sold very poorly, the devs' words, so finding other people to talk about that game with has been super hard. I've managed to convince a few people to check it out, but nobody got hooked the way I did. At times, it feels like I'm standing on a subway platform shouting my message at passengers as the trains fly by. Have you ever experienced something so good that that you tried to get people into it just so you could finally have an in-depth conversation with someone about it. Thanks, and keep up the good work, Evan Noggle. Listen, man, I started a tabletop gaming podcast after years of wishing I had people to play tabletop games with. So, like, yeah, I've been there. But
we did an Idle Weekend that was just about that question. We did a whole episode on sort of advocacy and like the games you love so much that you shout. It's like you have flyers for the thing, and not in a selling it way, not in a like, oh, I'm PR for this game, but in
no, I understand.
Like, this thing is beautiful and it touched me. And
why is no one paying attention?
Yeah.
But like, I think for me, like, that's what connects back up to that passion question of like. Yeah. How do you sell something that you're super passionate on to somebody? How do you shine a light on it in a way that's actually going to draw attention to it and not draw attention to the fact that you love it? Do you know what I mean? Like, that can be a difficult thing.
This is like a thing, and I know that this isn't related to games, but this is a thing we experienced at back when I was at Crunchyroll when we were trying to decide on licensing JoJo, and Victoria and I were like, love JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Right. We had seen how, devoted and dedicated the fan base was. Like, we were on Tumblr, we knew, and we fought like so hard. We're like, we got to get this. Like, people need to know that this exists. People need to like watch it, and we convinced the licensing team to get it, and it didn't perform. It was kind of similar, not super similar, but it did not go the way we expected it to go.
Right. And that can be tough. Like, that's the difficult thing here is like, when you're in this position of like, oh, okay, I can greenlight X projects, or I can greenlight 10 projects for this period of time. I'm going to make sure that like a handful of them are something that I believe in, even if I don't think it'll do well, right? That is the thing we don't have the calculus for it in that way, right? But like, when I say, Danielle, can you do me a favor and write up this bit about why James Burns, who's a producer here at Vice, is going into solitary confinement for a month to live stream it. When I ask you to write that up, it's not because I think it'll do super well. Right. It's because I want to use our platform to support something really cool, or something really what I think is really thoughtful and important. That is like, in some senses, you take the L there. Right? You're like, all right, this isn't going to be the thing that blows up and does us good traffic, and that's totally okay. Or even something like, we ran a piece by Moira McCammon on games that utilize Guantanamo Bay a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great piece.
It's a pretty good piece, and like, not pegged to any specific news story, right? Like, no, outside of, I think it's important that we talk about Guantanamo Bay and like the way in which that it is gamified. That's an interesting thing, but you have to figure out either how do you translate. I think that's a really good piece in which she's translated her academic passion into a wider audience interest piece, in a way that's like, oh, hey, I'm really passionate about this thing, but I'm not making about my passion. I'm making about the qualities of the game, or the qualities of this thing that I'm talking about. Yeah. So that's one way you do it. And then the other thing there is just like, I as a publisher have to then say like, okay, because of that, like, I have to make sure we also are doing something this week so that the audience growth team doesn't give me bad looks, and like, it's a fucking weird balance. Yeah. It's a weird balance.
And it's the same really across all media journalism.
Yeah, totally. I don't think it's like a Vice only thing that people have. Like, we don't even have like specific traffic goals where it's like, this week you need this many people, but it's like, hey, show us that you're like, what's your strategy here? Like, what's your plan here? Yeah. And then, to talk to the Brigador thing specifically, it's like you said, Danielle, how do you be an advocate for something you love without it turning into kind of PR style, like, selling, or without, for me, the other side is like, again, like, making it hard for someone to want to get in on it. I think a lot of the Undertale fandom was kind of rough around that when that game first launched, where like, I fucking love Undertale. I very nearly never played Undertale because I was afraid that if I didn't like it, I had friends who were like such huge converts that I would want to disappoint them. Like,
I played it this year because I was like so scared.
Right. Yeah. Listen, they'll come for you. And
I know.
They won't. That game is really, and so like, that game was really cool, but like, the overwhelming positivity is not always the best way to do it. Like for me, the way I try to convince someone that a game is really good, there's like a couple of ways. One, I take lots of notes, and then I convert those notes into something that is about the game and is about the context that the game comes out in. And then ideally, I'm looking at the person I'm talking to individually, and I'm saying, here's why I think you would like this. Like, hey, here's the thing you liked. Let me tie that to the thing that I think is cool for you to like. And then also sometimes I just don't try to sell things to people. Like, there's lots of shit that I like that I don't think anybody else should like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And sometimes just talking about it, like hearing you talk about Hitman, for example, sometimes just talking about it because you feel like talking about it, you're not trying to sell it, you just played it and you like it, that is enough.
Right. Here's a cool thing that happened, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. But like, for all of my like shouting about how good Invisible Ink is and how Invisible Ink needs to be on the top 10 list of 2015 and blah blah blah, I didn't actually like set out to try to like convince people I knew that they had to try Invisible Ink. If I saw them starting it, I'd say, "Oh wow, Invisible Ink's so good! Like, let me know when you're done playing. I'm really excited to talk to you about it."
Yeah.
But like overselling it directly, like I know that that's a thing for certain people. Like if you play weird tactical games, if you like cyberpunk stuff, like yeah, okay, there's an in there. But if that's just not what you play, it's just not what you play, and that's totally chill,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I struggle with a lot because I'm just sort of a naturally very, it's pretty obvious. I get really excited when I love something, and so I'm always trying to be like, you know what, maybe it's not for everyone, but for me, this was amazing, and I'm never going to shut up about it because I can't help myself. I'm bursting with enthusiasm for the things that I love.
Yeah, I would never say like don't write about or scream about or shout about, not scream about, just shout about the stuff that you love. Like of course do that, but I think there's a big difference between that and like, no, you don't understand. You need to play this thing.
Arguing with people.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, of course.
What really? This is what you're doing with your time? Come on. Last question from the bucket today from Ben. With all of the end of the year content, I was interested in more insight into how you folks view fan fiction in the context of creative works. While I'd describe my interest in fan fiction as generally disinterested, I feel people should use that creative energy making new and interesting stuff, not reusing existing things! ! I absolutely get people's attachments to characters, worlds, and stories and wanting to explore those spaces. There's also cases of fan fiction getting as big or bigger than the original material. For example, I heard that 50 Shades was originally Twilight fanfic, minus all the supernatural stuff. It was just Twilight fanfiction. Then when it blew up, or like when it blew up as fanfiction, she got a book deal. She had to strip out all of the supernatural.
Damn, I wish it would have stayed.
Really fascinating.
I wish it would have stayed as Twilight fanfic.
As another way to approach it, what do you think the Venn diagram would look like for people who dismiss professional writing with that's not real, right, versus people who professional wrestling with that's not real, right, versus people who dismiss fan fiction with that's not canon, right?
Wrestling's real.
Wrestling is real. It's just also scripted. Like actually, like that's the thing, right? Like wrestling is real. It's just also scripted.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think people dismiss fan fiction with it's not canon. I don't think that tends to be the dismissal. I think the dismissal is a lot more like Ben's dismissal, which is like, why aren't you making new original stuff? Or do you care so much about these characters' relationships? Where is the plot? Or that's not yours. Why are you wasting your time with that?
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people basically calling it childish. Like,
that's
these
a huge
fun
thing.
Things in your imagination, but grow up and be a real person and like sports instead. That kind of idea.
I hear a lot of people who do say like, don't write fan fiction if you're going to be like, the only fiction that really matters is like completely new original stuff, which is like a tricky path to walk down, because like then real quick you have to be mad at like lots of literary authors who either were pretty much writing fan fiction where it's like things like Michael Crichton drawing on Beowulf, right? Yeah. And like writing.
I mean,
Eaters
Shakespeare wrote fan fiction.
Exactly. Like Murasaki Shikibu's Tale of Genji is like engaging with other important narratives of her time, and that was like maybe the first novel that was ever written, you know, like, and it was rewriting history and mythology. So like, and you can go deep that way, but also right, exactly. So like, first of all, you can make one case you can always make is the history of literature is a history of fan fiction over and over again, and that's one way you can go. And I think it's a valuable defense of fan fiction because it reminds you that in fact there has never been a clear divide between fiction about things you own and fiction about a wider world. The other way you can go is fuck copyright. Our copyright system means that a lot of things that would be moving into the public domain, where people could be writing about them openly, that hasn't happened for a lot of properties, which is depending on what you think about it, either a thing that allows the companies to continue to harbor and protect and enshrine those great ideas. Like, it's why I'll never be able to write a Batman comic without DC's blessing. But also, real talk, I would write a pretty dope Batman comic.
Yeah. I would read your Batman comic over anybody else's.
Same.
But like the only way whereas I could probably write an okay Sherlock Holmes novel, and I could do that because Sherlock has moved into the public domain, I believe. If not him, then Poirot or some other detective. You know, whatever. And then there's also the defense that, like, chill. Like,
let people do what they want. Let them be creative. Let people enjoy the things they like. Life is short. Like,
as long as it's not a harmful thing. Like this isn't like diving into an extremely widespread like Tumblr fandom headfirst. This is like reading something on your own time, like writing something like people don't have to read, you know.
Yeah. So I think that there is. So I guess the thing is, like, to one degree, I like producing these really productive defenses that say, "Oh, look, fan fiction is part of the history of fiction," or fan fiction is really good because if you want to become a professional game writer, guess what? You're going to constantly be writing characters you didn't invent. Or if you want to get into TV production or film, like, you know, the Marvel movies are written by people who never wrote those comics before. You know, outside of, I guess, Whedon had done some comics work. But, like, that stuff isn't necessarily... I'm not saying that's fan fiction, but it's only not fan fiction because it has a stamp of approval on it.
Right.
It's not the original authors, right? Like, comics is built on new writers moving in to write in that space. TV does this all the time. You know, a television show's writer's room is, like, a bunch of people being like, what can we do with these established characters that's really cool? And that's awesome. And so I like that productive defense. But I also do just like the defense that says, like, I'm not here to justify fan fiction. I think fan fiction is, in its own rights, a productive pastime in which you get to stretch, like you said, your creative muscles and just be creative and have stories. And, like, that's no less a valuable pursuit than writing new characters to me. Like, I don't think that is... and I say that after going through a long phase of my life that was very dismissive of fan fiction for all of those reasons.
Yeah.
And I tried to... Eventually, I pushed back on those ideas because I couldn't find grounding for them. I don't know why I thought original ideas were more valuable, other than literally you can sell them for more.
Yeah.
All right. And at that point, that the market is your kind of scale for what isn't valuable as writing, as literature. Like, you done goofed. So it's
and it's worth saying that there's also, with fan fiction, as with all kinds of fiction, as with every kind of art, there's like good and thoughtful art, and there's bad and shitty and thoughtless art too. There's probably revenge porn about every single imaginable, you know, character in the universe, and that doesn't mean, like, saying, it should be judged by the same general standard is my general.
Yeah, I'm not here saying, like, all fanfic is good and you should read all of it. Go read all fanfic. Do it. Go to AO3 right now and just, like...
read every piece on the internet now.
Like, and I'm not even saying you need to engage with it at all, but I do think that, like the person who says they like all music except rap and country, like, y'all just haven't listened to any rap or country, right? Yeah. Like, that sort of blanket dismissal of an entire genre of creative work doesn't value you in any way. Like, all it does is close a door, and that's a really boring way to live. So that's my defense of fanfic.
It's a good defense.
Also, we ran like 7 pieces, and people on Twitter were like, I opened up Waypoint the other day, and I saw 30 pieces of fanfic. Like, oh, you didn't. Dude, my dude.
You saw one a day.
7.
You saw one day, pal.
Shout outs to all of our incredible fanfic writers,
Yes.
also.
Yes,
Who
and
did
artists and everyone.
incredible
So
artists,
your stuff.
and the people who just wrote really great articles for us or who contributed to all the superlatives. Shout outs also to you if you came in red. If you didn't, you can go to waypoint.vice.com, which is a website on the internet where you can read our end of the year coverage, which included everything from I guess if you missed it, it was a special crossover alternate universe fanfic world in which all of the video game characters from 2016 hung out together and snuck away to get high in the tennis courts and all sorts of other stuff. And there's incredible art and articles that ranged from real fanfic of characters hanging out to thoughtful, essays on the state of violence in games, or a really great reported piece from Ian Williams about the state of the
SAG-AFTRA, yeah.
Thank you, the SAG-AFTRA voice actor strike, all dressed up in the Waypoint High kind of clothes, and it was really fun and nice.
It was
and
fun.
I really appreciate but there were also lots of really positive things people said, so thank you for all of those.
Everybody got straight A's.
Yeah.
Okay, well, almost
Except for
everybody.
detention. Detention got
Except for detention. Detention
Yeah.
did not. Except for,
everybody else
Thank you
got
so
straight
much.
A's.
Everybody else. Then they all graduated, and we'll see them in the
Yay.
future.
Yay.
Danica, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at twitter.com/waypoint.
Second.
And where you can find all of our end of the year stuff, because I've been pushing it a bunch, and you can find my my actual Twitter at Danika Harrod.
Like the department store.
Yeah, like the race car driver plus the department store. No, but Danika with a K,
So not like the race car driver.
not like the race car driver. No.
Close.
Where can people find the rest of Waypoint stuff on the internet?
Twitter.com/waypoint, Facebook.com/waypointvice, YouTube.com/waypointvice, Instagram.com/waypointvice. Yeah. Everywhere is Waypoint or Waypoint Vice. We have a great subreddit. It's
We have a-
/r/waypointvice.
We have a fan Discord, which I think
We
is
have a
probably
fan Discord,
posted
yeah.
somewhere.
Yeah, I should get it posted. Let me chat with the mods and I'll get it posted. It's a rambunctious and wonderful group.
It's really
It is
good.
true.
I check in I lurk all the time. And check
I'm
in.
a
same.
lurker.
So
I'm a
same.
serious lurker.
Yeah.
And then you can find me at Austin_Walker and at Austin Walker Games on Facebook.
Yay.
Austin Walker Games.
Austin
What
Walker
about
Games.
you, Danielle?
You can find me, Danielle R.I. on Twitter and Danielle Riendo Writer on Facebook. And I think I need to just connect my Twitter to my Facebook so that there are things.
That's what I did. And then the thing I learned was that it
breaks the posts, right?
It breaks the post. There's no context. That's the big problem.
Yeah.
Which I learned because there was a meme going around this week. Did you guys see this meme this week?
No.
No.
So Kate Gray, who is a writer for us, she wrote a fanfic for us this week, and she's been a really good freelancer for us over the last year. Started this hot Twitter meme the other day, which was go into your phone and start a new message and use the autocomplete to finish a sentence begins.
Yeah.
And the sentence begins, my 2017 will be something like that, right? And mine was, my 2017 will be a good friend, and I am so sorry for the fact that I have to go live with my God, and God, I wish I had a good friend. And that was posted with no context at all on Facebook. And someone said, Jesus Christ, Austin, this sounds like a note, and you can't see context on Facebook. I almost got a heart attack. Miguel, I'm sorry that I almost gave you a heart attack. It's a meme. It was a meme.
That's
a meme.
special.
It's just
Just
a
a
meme.
meme.
You can find us on
baby
Facebook.
shoes never worn shit right there. That's intense. Right
That's
there.
intense. And my Facebook needs a good friend. So you can find it at Austin Walker Games. You can find us waypoint.vice.com, waypoint.zone, bazinga.zone, digitalpyramids.com. You can find out info about the song that you're hearing in the future, maybe in a few seconds from now, Miss You by Boen at waypoint.zone/BOEN. Thanks to Tim Barnes, who I think is going to engineer this one for us, because I got an email when we started recording, Danielle,
nice.
that said like, "Oh, hey, yeah, I could totally make this a podcast for you."
Hell yeah.
For me.
And shout outs to 2017.
Yes.
Be better.
Here we go. Here we
Come
go.
on. Putting a lot on, you know what, I'm putting a lot on 2017's shoulders. Do you know what I mean? Like 2016 was like the bad older sibling, right?
Yeah.
It's like, God, things went bad with 2016. So I understand 2017. I'm putting a lot on your shoulders to be the follow-up, where you have to live in the shadow of your bad older brother, and you have to be like, all right, am I going to be good or bad?
I'm feeling like this is hitting way too close to home for me. So on that note,
Thank you, Internet, and have a good week. We'll see you on Friday. Peace.